What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today I come to you because this is like my part 2 on how to accurately predict your team season schedule. And today I'm going to tell you how to watch the preseason games. I know a lot of times everybody hears at how vanilla the offenses are, how vanilla the defenses are, and things like that. But there are things you can look at and see that's going to be beneficial down the line, especially when you're trying to really find out and gauge how good your team is actually going to be. So with that being said, I'm going to list the 5 things that you have to watch in these preseason games to really gauge what type of team you have and what's going to go on with the team. So number 1 is chemistry. We're going to see how well this team has meshed together during the offseason. We're going to see if the offense is running smoothly. We're going to see if the defense is kind of in sync. We're going to see if the offensive line is in sync. We're going to see if they're able to sit up there and put in a drive where Jaden Daniels can at least go 2 for 4 or 3 for 5 or something like that and actually score the ball. We're going to see how in sync they've been or how in sync these players have been. It could be things that are simple. Even when you think about the special teams, how well does that snap go from the snapper to the holder to the kicker? Because again, we don't have our normal kicker because he got in trouble during the off season. So now we got to see what happens when you now have this new kicker and if the sequence is all straight and all together when it happens. So a lot of this chemistry is going to matter. We're going to find out if guys are looking after each other. We're going to see if guys have non-verbal cues with each other. We're going to see if a line can move together. We're going to see if guys sit up there and make the extra block to help spring a teammate open or to spring a teammate loose. We'll see if linebackers are helping the defensive linemen move into certain positions and things like that. We're going to see a lot of this stuff in the preseason. Even though a lot of stuff may seem vanilla, it could also be things like stunts. You know, there's times where players will do stunts and things of that such nature just to show how in sync a lot of them are when it comes to playing on the outside. So you'll look at stuff like that. Chemistry, you will pay attention to a lot of chemistry going on when the preseason games happen. So number 1 is chemistry. Number 2 is communication. We're going to see how well the team syncs up. Not only syncs up with with each other's team as teammates, but also with the coaches. We're going to see if the coaches have communicated well enough that they can get their if Cliff Kingsbury can get his offense getting down the field, scoring, and back on the field, or even making taking time off the clock to sit up there and stretch out the offense being on the field to get a defensive rest. We'll also see how Joe Witt sits up there and calls defense. Does his defense seem in sync? Is he communicating with the green dot guy to make sure that everybody's in place? How much communication does he have to give to the green dot guy? He may not have to give much. Who is the green dot guy? We're going to see if the offensive line, if Jaden Daniels is communicating to them with protection schemes, or are they handling the protection schemes to help him, being as though he's a young quarterback and he's going to have to learn how to pay attention to these protection schemes. So how much of that is going on? Something as simple as the center quarterback exchange. Is the center communicating with Jaden Daniels, or is Jaden Daniels communicating well enough to the center so he knows when to hike the ball and on what should he hike the ball? Or should he look under himself to see if Jaden Daniels has stomped his foot? Things of that such nature, we're going to see what the chemistry is going to be like. We're also going to see if on the defensive side, if we see secondary members sit up there and help each other out. A lot of that is communication, and we're going to see that in the preseason. Be very aware of that, because, again, a lot of times people may think that, people are communicating with each other, and next thing you know, a big play happens and they're looking to blame another one instead of like, oh no, don't worry about it, I'm over the top, so I got you on this back end. So we'll definitely see what happens. Next will be growth and transition. We will see how many of these rookie guys have been able to transition over to the NFL game and how well they know their positions. The same thing happens with veterans that are new to the system, the veterans that are new to Washington. We'll see what happens when it comes to that. We'll see how many of these guys have grown since the last time we saw them. Will Manny Forbes show that he was worth the first round pick? What about Jamin Davis? What's happening with him? Is he growing into the new position that he's playing, where he's playing like this edge guy / linebacker guy? What's happening with him? Will we see Benjamin St-Juste actually step up and become more of a takeaway guy instead of just a pass breakup guy? Will we see De'Ami Brown become a bigger influence on the offense? What about Jahan Dotson? Will we see a better season from Jahan Dotson? How well has Jaden Daniels really grown when it comes to learning this offense and actually playing in a NFL scheme? So again, we're going to find out if growth and transition has actually happened on this team. And we're going to see, again, in the preseason, we will see these things. Some of these, you got to understand, our team is a very skilled team, but we'll see how skilled they really are. Again, you basically got a rebuilt offensive line at this point. So you're going to see how well growth and transition has happened during the offseason, and is it translating well into the preseason games. Next is depth. This is a huge one, because Adam Peters' time in San Francisco wasn't known for having quality depth after their starters. This is going to be something major. Washington, as a team, has some older players, some older veterans on the team. And we're going to find out how well these guys play against the veterans. And on top of that, what happens if a starter goes down? Do we feel comfortable enough with the guy coming in to back him up? How comfortable do we feel with this guy? Like, okay, if Jahan Dotson was to go out, is Luke McCaffrey good enough to fill in for him? Is De'Ami Brown good enough to fill in for him? Is there somebody else waiting in the wings good enough to fill in for him? What about Austin Eckler? What about Dante Fowler Jr., Clelin Ferrell? What other guys can fill in for them that is going to make a difference, that is going to be special, that is going to make our depth a strength of the team and not a hindrance to the team, due to the fact that the starters are gone out and our depth is not as good as the starting core that was in the game at first. So again, you got to pay attention to our depth and how good our depth is, especially when you're talking about going up against another team's depth also. Last but not least, and this is one that I have to admit is one that a lot of times when people talk about this, they always bring up the ones where they talk about guys that have sparked but haven't panned out, and how many times fans have been excited about it. But the last thing you got to pay attention to are the hidden gems. The guys that came out of nowhere, the guys that no one was expecting, guys who make the roster that you weren't expecting to make the roster, or guys that could make the roster that nobody was expecting to make the roster. So again, hidden gems are very important. That's how guys get found. You're talking about guys like a guy like London Fletcher, who was found with the Rams. Just on the Commanders alone, Commanders/Redskins, you're talking about, we have a laundry list of guys that performed in the preseason that got them roles on a regular team, and they made the most of it. You're talking about guys like Antonio Pierce, Shar Pordanish, Corey Lichtensteiger, Mike Sellers, James Thrash, Steven Sims Jr., Brian Banks, Jesus, I'm trying to think of, because Lorenzo Alexander. We've had a bunch of guys actually make the team that were guys that weren't really thought about. Darrell Young. There's guys who will make the team that most people wouldn't even imagine making a team. Most people will put their rosters out there, or who they think is going to make the roster, and they haven't even seen any preseason games yet. And this is also one of those things. Guys who are not being paid attention to, guys who were missed in the draft, guys who just came out of nowhere. Again, it can happen. And we've had, and on Washington, we've had guys show up in Washington and become absolute dogs for us. I mean, we have more success rates when it's come to guys who showed up in the preseason than we have failures. And I know most people think about guys like I think it was Marcus Mitchell, and I can't remember the running back, but they bring them up a lot, but they never bring up Antonio Pierce and a lot of other guys that we had. Hell, at one time we had Terry Crews, the actor Terry Crews, and he actually showed up in a preseason game, which made Washington sign him, and made Washington sign him for the season. So, and I think he played like 2 seasons here in Washington. So again, like I said, those are the 5 things you need to watch out for in these preseason games. It helps you understand a little bit better. You'll see what the chemistry, communication, the depth, the growth and transition, and also find hidden gems in this preseason as well. So again, like I said, this is how you watch the preseason, and understand this may open a lot of you, it may open your eyes to something new that you weren't expecting at first. So again, like I said, these are the keys to watching preseason games, and it's going to help you in the long run. Y'all tell me what y'all think. How many of y'all think that there's more to the preseason? Some of y'all may think that the preseason is still a nothing and you don't really care. Y'all let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, this is your man John Fortune, and this is the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.